A Metro Atlanta family demanding accountability today after body camera video was released. It shows the deadly police shooting of Devontae Brown back in 2021. Atlanta News First reporter Joshua Skinner went back to the site of the shooting today. He joins us now with the latest. Joshua.
Lawyers for the family of Devontae Brown released body cam footage today of the moment the 28-year-old was shot and killed by Cobb County police right here on Powder Springs Street. The video begins near the end of the incident that took place on August 18, 2021, with police approaching Brown's car, guns drawn. Hands up! Hands up! Despite being blocked by police into a business on Powder Springs Street in Marietta, Brown attempts to ram his way through multiple police vehicles, deployed airbags blocking the view inside the car. We're not showing the moment Brown was shot. The officer fired 12 rounds into the vehicle immediately after Brown pulled forward into the police vehicle. The officer can be heard soon after, mentioning Brown appeared to be suffering from agonal breathing.
315, agonal breathing. Have fire step it up if they haven't already.
Meaning he believed Brown was not getting enough oxygen. In response to the footage, the family's attorney Harry M. Daniels said in part, Devontae Brown wasn't a threat to anyone. This video makes it clear he was trapped like a rat. He gunned him down like vermin. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the incident began when Brown was pulled over for erratic driving. A gun was found in his car. Atlanta News First reached out to Cobb County officials and the GBI for comment on the footage and the ensuing investigation, but we have not received a response as of this story. Brown's family has not said if it intends to pursue legal action. In Marietta, Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First.